Hey, how's it going everybody? It's your boy Meteor Geyser here, back again with another challenge run. We're jumping back into the world of Final Fantasy 3. I promise you I have my Final Fantasy 6 run coming up soon. It's just taking a little longer because it is a bit of a longer game. And of course with work and everything I have been a little backed up, but we are going to revisit a challenge that I tried to do for FF3, but I didn't follow through because I thought it was going to be too difficult, but I decided to just go ahead and try it. So we are going to try and beat Final Fantasy 3 with only Onion Knights. That's right, we are going the freelance style again, but the problem with the Onion Knights is they are a very bad class. Onion Knights get access to the base level equipment, they get access to mithril equipment, they get access to crystal, which is endgame equipment, and then of course the onion gear in the final dungeon. So that basically means from the second that you get mithril gear in the second town to endgame, that's all you're rocking. So this is going to be one doozy of a run. As always, guys, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you like what you see, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot. And of course, feel free to comment. A lot of you guys do anyway, because the backseating's crazy on this channel, but you know, that's what we're here for, right? But yeah, anyway, let's just jump into it. So the morals of this run are basically going to be a few things. 1, drop rates. 2, grinding. As I kind of would expect with a run of this type, grinding is going to be a very prevalent theme, unfortunately, because there's no way around it in a run like this. But yeah, so game opens up as usual. We get introduced to our 4 brave Onion Knights, and of course I had to name them. I've given them the names of Shallot, Chive, Scallion, and Leek, avoiding the more traditional onions, so like avoiding sweet, red, yellow, because I wanted a little bit more creative names. So our lead guy Shallot, and the other 3. So of course we jump into this first area. It's going to be pretty important for us to grab whatever chest we can, especially in this first area we want to make sure we grab the Antarctic Wind, because that is going to be very helpful on the second boss fight. So let's just head on up through here, and we're going to be taking on the land turtle. One thing that's not really going to matter too much, well, okay, so it does matter, but it's kind of weird how it matters. So job level, right? As I can only do just Onion Knights, I think job level really affects the amount of hits that your attacks will give off, which will benefit us later. But I don't know of too many other benefits besides that. Maybe crit rate, something like that. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure one of you geniuses know the answer to that. After we've cleared through the altar cave, we're going to head on over to start the story. Or story, I use air quotes very loosely on that. We're going to make sure that we pop to the well and the area up top in order to get ourselves another longsword. Because until we get our mithril swords, we're going to be equipping 2 longswords per unit. I'm going to kind of forego using shields unless I really have to, because most of the shields are going to be crap for us anyway. And it's better for us to do as much damage as we possibly can, just because we need to kill these enemies quick. Because we don't have much defense to our name. But yes, we head on over to Kazas after we've gone through and we learn about the Jin's curse. We talk to Sid. He gives us access to his little ship in the desert tile to the west of Kazas. And with that information, we're going to head over to Castle Sasune, or Castle Sassoon, however you want to call it, and grab ourselves some of the items around Kazas and Castle Sassoon. Especially in Kazas, there's like a hidden Zeus Wrath, and it is paramount that we get as many of these as we possibly can. Zeus Wraths, Antarctic Winds, Bomb Fragments, all of these items that let you do damage, because our physical attacks, they're going to help us for a while, but the damage is going to drop off pretty quickly. So it's going to be very important for us to grab those items as much as we can. Due to the nature of this run, I don't really have encounters off very much. I do attack a lot of things. So in Castle Sassoon, as I said, we're going to be popping to those 2 areas on the side. Going to be dealing with the griffin from the chest. Again, a lot of these things aren't very necessary. It's just I want to get a lot of experience early. That way I don't really have to grind early game. And surprisingly, I don't really have to grind early game that much. Having 2 weapons does help. Having 2 longswords is definitely pretty useful, especially against these werewolves. Now, I could have preemptively gone back to Kazis and gone to the mines in order to get mithril, an extra mithril sword before taking on the Jin. However, I didn't really deem it necessary, / I forgot about it, to be honest. So, half of the things, if I do something wrong, it's probably because I forgot about it. But anyway, we're going to make our way around level 10 or so-ish into the ye old cave. We're going to be picking up everything from here, especially those Antarctic winds, as I said. And we're going to make our way to the Jin fight. Now, this isn't too terrible. The Jin has around 550 HP or so. We are doing around 30 to 50 damage a hit, and the Jin with his fire is doing about 50 himself. So as long as I get lucky, which I seem to be getting lucky in this attempt, where he's kind of splitting his damage up between my party members pretty evenly, and then just to finish the job and make sure that it's not too bad, I do have one of my guys use an Antarctic wind just to clear it up. I'm sure I can survive without 1 Antarctic wind. The 150 damage extra that I did is probably going to be very helpful. So we take down the Jin, we leave Princess Sarah, who has joined up with us in this fight, and we head up to the king. You know, everyone's all cured and everything. King gives us the canoe. That way we can go collect our ship, because if not, we would have been up Ship Creek without a paddle. Haha. But yes, we can head back to Kazis, and we can pick ourselves up a bunch of mithril stuff. This is our endgame equipment, basically. Yay! Mithril armor, gloves, helm, shield, and swords. So again, we're doing 2 swords, keeping it very offensive. This is good for now. This really puts us on the top of our game for a little while. But then, yeah, this is gonna fall off pretty quickly. We sure love it. And so, for the uninitiated, how this works, how the Onionite class works, is every 10 levels you get a stat point in every category. So, for example, everyone starts out with 5 up across the board: strength, stamina, agility, all of that stuff. At level 10, you're going to get another one. So you're going to get 6 across the board, so on and so forth. 20, you get 7. 30, you get 8. 40, you get 9. 50, you get 10. 60, you get 11. And then when you start getting up to the realm of 85 plus is when you're going to begin to get more stuff. So especially from the 90s, you're going to get 7 each per. So you can already kind of preface of what's going to happen is we're going to have to get our asses up very, very high level. But we're going to try and avoid that as much as we can in the current moment and just get our asses to the next area, which is Canaan. This is where we're dropping off Sid, and we're going to cure his wife. We're going to head up to the Dragon's Peak, which in this Dragon's Peak, we're going to go to the summit. We're going to run into Jesus, and we're going to get attacked by Bahamut. Now, thankfully, as I have 4 party members, unlike the last solo run, I didn't have to really worry about that. I can just flee, and we were all good. So our next objective, and of course, where we have to kind of break the rules as per the last run, is I have to switch jobs over to White Mage in order to use the mini spell in order to get us into Tosis, the next location. Now, somebody did mention in my Dark Mage run that there's certain items that you can use. Those items do not drop until after this event. They do not drop until, I believe, post Owen Tower. So, unfortunately, you're still going to have to do this with Mini and Toad. So, I do appreciate that guy's information. However, he's wrong! But anyway, so we're going to head on into Tosis. We're going to give the antidote to that person. We're going to pick up all of the extra items laying around. Not like they do anything for us in this run. But hey, a little bit of equipment is good. Can always sell that off later to buy more high potions. We're going to head on into the Viking Cove. We're going to head through here. There's not really much to mention here. And this is our first roadblock of the run, ladies and gentlemen. This is against the giant rat. Now, we head into the Nepto cave, the Nepto Shrine, whatever the hell you want to call it. And the problem here is the giant rat, the boss, he has 1,500 HP. Your entire party needs to be minied, so that means physical attacks will not do shit. So our only option is to use whatever Zeus Wraths, Antarctic Winds we have. Unfortunately, these are only doing around 100 damage, and I don't have nearly enough of them. I only have like 4 or 5. So there's no way I'm going to be able to kill him, and the giant rat takes 1 damage per hit besides that. And he's able to do a lot more to us than we are to him. So this is the point in the game where we have to start doing a little bit of grinding. Not by choice. This is more of a grinding for Antarctic Winds and whatever Zeus fragments, whatever we can find. There's a few enemies that drop them in this immediate area. There are the Sea Elementals, the Tangis, and the Sahagins, I believe. All have the small chance to drop Antarctic Winds, among other things. Yeah, I was here for about an hour and 10 minutes or so, somewhere in that range. All things considered, that's not even that bad. I did lie about the levels. I was actually lower leveled than I thought. I jumped from level 9 to level 26. And again, this was not by choice. This was quite literally because I did not have an option. I had to get these items. And their drop rate is so bad. I believe it's a 1 in 8 chance to get a rare drop or an uncommon drop. And then that has to be, you have to have a drop in the first place, right? So at least the other thing as well, before my Antarctic Winds were only doing about 100, or about 80, now they're doing like 250. So it's a lot more damage, at least with these items. So thankfully I have just enough going for me that I'm able to clear out this giant rat after a whole 15 or so levels of grinding. Jesus. But thankfully, at least that's kind of the end of that for now. But this is not the end of my suffering, that's for sure. So after defeating the giant rat, the map opens up to us, and I pretty much just make a beeline for the Golden Gulch and then the Tower of Owen, because the Village of the Ancients and Tokol don't really have anything for us. So in Golden Gulch, we're going to get access to Toad Magic, which we're going to need to swap over to our White Mage again in order to use that, in order to get into the Tower of Owen. Thankfully, going through this dungeon, a lot of the enemies will silence you. Doesn't really matter for us. We don't care about getting silenced. And then the boss Medusa has 2000 HP and loves to do spells. But thankfully, we are in regular human form after coming off of Toad. And we're doing about 130 damage per hit. So do the math, about 5 turns, Medusa is easy taken care of. Thankfully, that wasn't that bad. I mean, obviously we're over leveled as hell for this point, which helps / doesn't help my cause, either or, whatever you decide. But we leave Jesus off. He turns out he's some sort of protector of the flame, and he's able to open up the outside of the map for us, in which we're going to be heading up to our next locations. We're going to pop over to Jasal just to grab some magic keys for later. Again, not really anything useful here for us. As I said, no equipment is going to matter. The only thing that we're going to need to buy is items. So like potions, Phoenix Downs, all of that type of stuff. Literal equipment, I keep trying. I keep hoping and praying that something's going to be better than this mithril shit. But nope, unfortunately. So we're going to head up to the Dwarven Hollows, the next area. And we're going to have to toad up again, unfortunately. So we toad up and we head into the Subterranean Lake area in order to grab the ice rod back for the Dwarven people. Again, I still am rolling off of my over-leveledness. So being only 2 levels over what we were when we fought the giant rat, I take on Gutsko. Gutsko has 2,800 HP. He likes to use Fire, which does about 300 damage or so to an individual, and my attacks are doing just shy of 200 a hit. So again, he's only single targeting spell, so as long as I just power through. And one thing I've kind of learned doing this run is if a unit dies, I'm not rezzing him during a fight, because that's just not worth it. I need to just go attack as much as I can and use all of my opportunities to attack. Reviving isn't going to do shit for me, at least in my humble opinion. But yes, we're able to take care of Gutsko because thankfully single targeting is pretty easy for us to deal with. We head out the Subterranean Lake. Gutsko is going to come back, steal some shit. We're going to have to head into the Molten Cave, in which we're going to be taking on the Salamander, our next boss, the first Oh, I guess he's the second boss, because the land turtle was the first crystal. This is the second one. So the salamander, a little scarier. Your salamander has the ability to use blaze, which will do party-wide AoE, so similar damage to fire, about 200 to 300 per hit. Oh, sorry, not blaze, flame, which is still extremely scary. So he's doing like 200 to 300 damage, and yeah. Thankfully, though, high potions heal for 500 HP in this game. So I do use some high potions just in order to keep my guys alive a little longer. But that doesn't work on my first attempt. On my second attempt, I decide to just heal up a little bit earlier. And I do use some Antarctic winds. Just because, I mean, part of me kind of regrets it, because I do need all of the Antarctic winds I can get later on. However, I did need to complete this fight, so I'd rather use all my resources and gain more later, because I am a hoarder in games and I try not to use shit if I don't have to. But if I didn't use all of the stuff that I had here, I probably would have lost. And a big benefit to actually beating this guy was I decided to go for a less damaging build. I did pick up some ice shields before back in the Dwarven Hollow, and I took off one mithril sword and replaced it with an ice shield. That way I might be doing less damage to him physically, but then he's only doing about 100 or so with the flame, with the flame. Fuck. He's only doing about 100 or so damage with the flame spell now. So it's a little bit more efficient for me to use those Antarctic winds in order for me to deal like 400 damage or so per hit. Because at least him doing less damage to me helps in the fact that I can manage my HP better with high potions. Because high potions are really good at this point in the run. But yeah, so we've beaten the salamander, and we're able to teleport out. We head back to the hollow, in which we pick up all of the stuff in the treasure chest area. Nothing useful for us, really, but we do it anyway, because why not? And we're basically told we gotta head back to Tolkol, because it's been overrun with baddies or whatever. We swap back over to the double mithril sword. And we get kidnapped at Tolkol, which is fun. We love being kidnapped. Now this is Hine Castle, which we're going to be fighting against a lot of demon-type enemies. It's also good to mention, it's good to conserve your potions, because you have no out of this dungeon. There's also no real healing area besides from the very beginning spot, and I don't really want to run all the way back. Especially with the enemies like Lamias, which are pretty scary when it comes to like paralyzing you and stuff. But at this point, we're just about level 30, so we have 8 stats all around. That is pathetic, but you know, we gotta do what we gotta do. 666 HP, baby. But yeah, we make our way up to Hine, and Hine is going to be a very interesting fight for us, because the gimmick for Hine, the traditional gimmick for Hine is, in order to do damage to him, you need to use a scholar, figure out its weakness, and then use whatever it's elementally weak to, because he swaps his weaknesses every few turns with barrier shift. And he doesn't take much physical damage, so unfortunately our physical attacks are only doing about 40 or so. So I do use the occasional Zeus Wrath to kind of help with damage. This I do regret 100%. I really should have saved, but again, I had no way of knowing the future, and you guys will see what that dreadful future is. So I do use all of my Zeus Wraths here just to be able to defeat Hine, and that actually helps, and we're able to take him down. After taking down Hine, we're going to head up to the Argus Castle. We're going to talk to the king that was also kidnapped in Hine Castle. He's going to give us the Wheel of Time, in which we're going to bring back to Sid at Canaan. He's going to let our boat fly, basically, and transform it into an airship, in which we're going to be able to head out of the floating continent into the world proper. Now our first objective is to head to the Sunken ship, in which we're going to be talking to Arya. We're going to pick her up. We're going to grab the blood sword. Unfortunately, we can't use the blood sword. That would really be nice, but tragic. We're going to head into the Temple of Water, grab the crystal shard, and we're going to use that crystal shard in the actual Cave of Tides. Cave of Tides, pretty linear dungeon. Nothing crazy enemy-wise here. It's very similar to the Molten Cave. We're going to make our way to the end, in which we're going to be fighting the Kraken, who unfortunately does kill Arya. Wow, we've known her for so long, I know. So tragic. But the Kraken fight, a little bit harder than the salamander fight, but for different reasons. Kraken has about 5k HP. Tends to do more individual damage, so with like Blazara. I don't really have many Zeus Wraths to my name, so it's going to be a lot of just regular old physical attacking in this one. I do have the odd Zeus Wraths, but again, I'm trying to conserve shit as much as I can here. And I do use Phoenix Downs and High Potions, because they are kind of somewhat useful in these early parts, especially those High Potions. And with that, we're able to take care of the Kraken, thank God. Okay, we are into our next area now, into Amur. We wake up in Amur, we're going to head into the Elder's house. He's going to give us access to the underground area, which we're going to meet the four fellows. Very cool. They try to copy the Warriors of Light, but they're not good enough. They get destroyed by some goblins. We're going to go into the very, very bottom of this area, in which we're going to meet some sort of witch. She's going to give us bog shoes, which lets us progress into the bog to Goldor Manor, which is the next location, which we need to go to get the next crystal, quote unquote. Now, the Goldor Manor has a lot of very scary physical enemies, so I do try and avoid as much combat as I can. The good thing here with Goldor is, unlike my Black Mage run, I don't have any physical resistance issues that I have to deal with. And again, I'm sticking to that High Potion strat, so when a unit gets low, I basically have one person on High Potion strat the entire game. Scallion is our High Potion bot, as well as some of the others. I basically just High Potion whenever I need to with whatever units. Now, Goldor is going to use Confuse, which is pretty annoying, but it usually goes away after one turn, so that's not too terrible to deal with. Goldor has 6k HP, and we're doing around 200 to 300 damage per hit. And after a few turns and a few heals, not too bad. Goldor was pretty easy on this run, thank God. And next we have the actual nightmare. Okay, so I kind of know what I'm getting into before I even go up there, because I already know how bad this guy is. So our next objective is to head up, kind of get ourselves blown up in Subterranean. Normally you'd head over to some of the other areas first, including Reptilito and Duster. Not really much for us there, except for Duster does have some Earthen Drums, which is basically Earthquake, which is a useful spell to have, or a useful item to have. It does damage after all. And so I do attempt this first. I do save my game. I'm around level 32 right now. I do save my game proper, that way in case I go up here and I lose, I could come back. I can retcon it basically. And so you're going to head up into Subterranean. You're going to get shot down, that's cool. And we're going to have to take on the... We're going to have to head into the bar in the southwest quadrant of Subterranean, which is split into 4 village areas. You're going to have to take on some gold knights in order to rescue Alice, who's in the pub. Alice will join you. He's the prince of the area. Basically going to want to head back to the castle after having Alice. Now you can go up to one of the other areas like the southeast in order to head into the Dragon Spire to get some Dragoon equipment. Doesn't matter for us. We can't equip it anyway, so who gives a shit. So our next boss fight is against Garuda, who is just in the castle after you have this whole dream sequence weird thing. The minister betrays everyone basically. He's controlling the king. And he has 7,500 HP and does lightning damage. Lightning will do about 300 to 400 damage per hit, and that is a party-wide AoE spell. My physical attacks against Garuda are doing less than 100 damage. So yes, you can kind of gather what's going to happen. I need to do some grinding. So specifically, I head back over to the Amur area and also the area north of Subterranean in order for me to attempt to fight some of these guys that can hopefully drop some nice spells for us, especially the Black Flan. Black Flan is able to drop bomb fragments and all of those above. But my first objective is to just try and get myself up a few levels. So jumping from level 32 all the way up to level 49. Yes, we went up 17 levels in order for us to take on this goddamn boss. And during that time, I was able to farm a few items, especially these Arctic Winds, which is an upgraded version of the Antarctic Wind, which you can get dropped from Black Flans, from Magicians, which we fought a lot of those in order to get them. So those were the main two. And with that, the Antarctic Winds are doing about 400, and then the Arctic Winds are doing about 800 damage. So I go crazy on the spells in order for me to take care of the Garuda pretty quickly, and by now we have easily over 1,000 HP. Pretty much we're at 1.5 So we went from about 600 HP to about 1.5k HP. Kind of crazy. And this did take me about, I want to say, I'm looking at my recording software, and it's about 2 hours. So that's fun. Anyway, next, after that, we're going to head over to one of these little towers. We're going to get access to the Nautilus, our new ship. And we're going to be able to fly into Goldor Manor, which is in the South Continent. We're going to head up there. We're going to go through this little dungeon, which we have to be minied again. Thankfully, no bosses, so this is a nice, quick, easy over and done with. Doga is going to cast a spell on us that gives us access to go underwater. Now we can pop to a few places in which I do eventually head to. I head to the Subterranean catacombs. Not to fight against Odin, because, oh god, we're not doing that on this run. I'm sorry, I don't feel like suffering that much. But mainly to pick up those elixirs that are in the chest at the end, like how we did on the last run. And then the Sunken Cave, in which, yeah, get very familiar with the Sunken Cave, because we're gonna be here a while. Oh my god, I'm having flashbacks. Okay, yeah. But we go in there first in order to just grab some items. We're gonna head into the actual area we need to go to, which is the Temple of Time, which is just on the left continent at the bottom, which we're gonna need to go through, pick up Noah's loot, and we're gonna need to take that loot upwards into Une's cave in order to wake her up. She's going to basically help us go through into the next area, which is right above Une's cave, which is a terrible dungeon for us, which is the Ancient Ruins. The problem with this dungeon is all the enemies have divide, and divide is basically if you attack an enemy, it'll split in half. Yeah, so here comes the I'm cheap part. Oh no, I don't want to be suffering here for 8 hours just to get through a fucking dungeon. So I turn off encounters. Fuck all of you. Anyway, we head through there. We're going to pick up the next ship, the Invincible, and this is going to give us access to a few things. We're going to be able to buy potions, which is beautiful for us. None of these weapons help at all because we can't equip any of them. And we're going to, with our new ship, head into the next area, which is the Cave of Darkness, in order to take on the next boss, Hecaton Care. But problem here is I'm a little bit too weak to take on Hecaton Care at this point. Hecaton Care is doing, when he attacks for single target damage, he does 1700 HP. That is my entire health pool. When he uses his AoE move, Quake, it does about 700 damage, which is 1/3 of my HP pool. So no matter how hard I try, I cannot clear this guy, especially as I don't have many spell items to my name anymore. So right at this point we're level 50, so keep that in mind. So we're going to head out of this area, and we're going to try and find some areas to grind in. First, originally, I think, to go to the Leviathan's cave, because it's got pretty decent enemies, and then I think to go to Bahamut's cave, because it's also got pretty decent enemies. But the problem is those enemies do way too much damage to me. And so after a little while of deciding, I pick the Sunken Cave. Now the Sunken Cave has a few very important enemies to us. So those are the Ogulai, the Kelpie, the Sea Witch. Those are the three main ones. There's a few other ones, but mainly the Sea Witch and the Ogulai and the Kelpie. They have the option to drop, mainly what we want is Arctic Winds. They also can drop the Raven's Yawn, which is like Tornado, essentially. And we're going to want as many of these as humanly possible. This is also the area which we're going to grind at, because we're gonna have to get up there, at least in order to take on the Cave of Darkness, bare minimum. So we go from level 50 to level 62. We're able to, again, the drop rates on these, I don't understand. The drop rates are so bad. I don't get it. But we do have enough items in order for us to make our second attempt on Hecaton Care. We also have a little bit more HP, going from the 1700 that we had to 2400. That gives me an option to survive at least one attack. That way I can spam whatever Raven's Yawns, Heavenly Wraths, and Arctic Winds I have to my name, which are doing around 1000 damage a pop. Again, with this just shy of 10k HP, I need to attack 10 times or so, and I think I can just barely survive that. But the problem after beating Hecaton Care is, awesome, we beat Hecaton Care. But now the issue that's going to survive is I'm out of items again. I used up all my Arctic Winds and all of that stuff. So we're going to need to go back to the grinding board. I do skip out on going to one location specifically. I do skip out on going to Falagbard because there's nothing there for us. You can get the Kiku Ichimonji, which does nothing for us. So yes, after we beat Hecaton Care, we're going to head back into the Sunken Cave. And man, Oh man. Yeah, I recorded some of this footage on screen, but I also recorded a lot of it off screen because I was like, I'm just going to be here this entire time. This was the point in the game where I'm like, all right, I'm going to be fighting against Titan next, which has double the amount of HP of Hecatoncheir. And then I'm going to have to start fighting against other characters like, you know, Doga and Une, which also have a crap ton of HP. Because you have to fight Doga and Une back to back. And then against like all of the characters in Eureka. And then not even mentioning, you know, your Cerberus, Echidna, Two-Headed Dragon, all of those. So I'm just like, I'm biting the bullet. We're getting our ass up to level 90. Level 90 is when your damage really starts to kick off, because I can rely on physical damage after that point. But let's just take these enemies that I'm grinding against, right? It's bad enough that I'm doing, okay, so let's take the Killer Hermit, for example. The Killer Hermit I'm doing 400 damage to. Each of his hits are doing 600 to 700, possibly even 1,000 with a crit. That means I have to be constantly spamming healing, leaving, going to Amur, which is the closest location, coming back, healing, doing this whole thing over and over again, and it's just mindless work. So I do this for a while until the jump starts to happen, and that is level 87 to 88, which I go from 15 to 22 a pop. And that's when I'm kind of like, all right, if I get my crew all up to level 88, then I might be able to finally leave this infernal place. And just to give you guys a perspective, I looked at the bestiary after I was done fighting all of these guys. I fought each individual enemy here in this area 400 times. That is a lot. I think in total, I want to say this took about 5 to 6 hours of my life grinding. This was abysmal. Terrible experience. But I wouldn't give it up for anything. I went from in-game time of 10 hours to in-game time of 16 hours. So yeah, I mean, sure, not all of it I was like physically there, like mentally either. I could have grinded more efficiently, but I was just like, I'm gonna put on some YouTube videos, put this on in the background, and just turn off my mind, hopefully. But yeah, so once we have that point, we do have, again, I don't even have double digits of Arctic Winds after all of that. None of my items I have double digits in. Besides some turtle shells, which I don't really need turtle shells. They just increase, they cast protect, which is helpful, but it's not the best thing in the world. But I have enough that I'm able to take care of Doga and Une, but unfortunately not enough that I'm able to take on Titan quite yet. So instead, I kind of go through the dungeon, I fight against a few enemies, I don't grind that much, but I just tiptoe around and I just keep trying the Titan fight, and eventually that 20k is able to beat them. So both the Une and Doga fight and then the Titan fight aren't too bad after this point. With that all said and done, we have not only have we completed the Doga's Grotto dungeon, we have completed the Ancient Labyrinth. The whole point of doing the Doga's Grotto thing is in order for us to get the keys into both Eureka and into the Crystal Tower proper. Now Eureka has a healing area, which is great for us, which means, hey, guess what I'm going to do a little bit more of? Yeah, I realized even with the extra 7 stats, I'm still disgustingly weak compared to half these enemies. So I do a little bit more grinding. And I'm going to get myself up to about level 90 before I decide to start fighting against all of these guys here. Now at level 90, I have 36 in each stat, which is increasing my damage to about 600 to 900 damage per hit, somewhere in that range. I'm still taking about the same amount of damage. The one really good thing, though, that I forgot to mention is in Eureka, there is a shop to the right, kind of at the end point, in which they sell crystal armor. And crystal armor is an upgrade for us. A humongous upgrade. So I swap out most things except for the ribbon and the protect rings that I've gotten over time. But all of my mithril equipment is finally gone, thank God. Besides from my mithril swords, which are staying, unfortunately. But yeah, so we now have some form of armor that actually decreases the amount of damage that we get done to us. Every single level, all of our stats go up by 7, starting from level 88. So 88, you had up to 22, 89, you had up to 29, and now we're at 36. And then 91 is 43, 92 is 50, 93 is 57, and so on and so forth, 7 per level. Up to 99 where all of your stats are 99 across the board. But I'm hoping I can get through this without getting to 99. Now my next thing that I do now that I'm early level 90s, I'm strong, is I do attempt to take on some of the dragons, because so how this works, there are 3 dragons on different floors. There is a green, yellow, and red dragon. There's a yellow, green, and red dragon respectively on floors 5, 6, and 7 of the Crystal Tower. They have a small chance to drop an elixir, an even smaller chance to drop a piece of onion armor, so either a shield, chest plate, one of those, and an even rarer chance to drop an onion sword, which is the best weapon in the game. However, my problem is I've grinded so fucking much throughout this run that I am not going to do this anymore. So I do a few attempts. Trust me, I do try. I get a piece of onion equipment, I get an onion shield, but by that point that I finish this grinding process and trying to get all of these guys up, I'm between level 94 and 95, and even though I still only have mithril swords, my damage has increased so much. I'm doing 50 plus hits, and I'm doing 3,000 damage per hit now. And of course, having this crystal armor has decreased the amount of damage I receive by quite a lot. Even with, as I said, even with these mithril swords, I'm doing enough damage that I think I can take on endgame pretty easily now. So that's exactly what I do. I'm like, alright, let me test this out, see how it goes. I'm going to try taking on Xande. And so the Xande fight, Xande has a nice, healthy, just shy of 40k HP. He can do a lot of, he's a very spell-heavy guy. Meteor, flare, things like that. But as I said, my damage is crazy at this point. My crits are doing 5k. My regular attacks are doing anywhere between 2 and 4k. And I have 5,500 HP kind of across the board here, across all my units. So a few turns, this guy's destroyed. This was such an easy fight. I'm like, alright, I can definitely take on endgame now. Just the feeling that I have right now of going from this pathetic, disgustingly weak, shitty class of Onion Knight to just being this Omega Chad who's able to just destroy anything in its path. The jump is crazy. I've been doing 300 damage per hit consistently for the past 30-40 levels, and now all of a sudden I'm doing 10 times that amount of damage. I love it. So that's another reason why I didn't really go grinding against the red dragons and all of those guys, because even going through the World of Darkness, I fight against Cerberus to start with. Cerberus is an absolute joke. He's dealt with real quick. Echidna, even similar. Sure, Echidna has a little bit more scary things. She can use Flare, she can use Meteor, similar to Xande. But Cerberus has 60k HP, Echidna has 70k HP. But it's also the fact that my HP total is so much higher than it was when I was Black Mage, because I was what, like mid-level mid-60s or something as Black Mage, and into Black Mages. Even her Meteor only does like 600 damage. And my physical attacks, as I said, still the same amount of damage, 3k per hit. So 3k, well, that's 12k per turn, so about 5 turns of just doing this over and over again, and voila, easy fight. Put on the auto fight and just let it go. Ahriman is our next fight. Again, I'm saving the two-headed dragon for last because that guy's awful. Ahriman is very similar. He has 75k HP, very similar to Echidna. Likes to use Meteor, likes to use Flare. His Meteors are a little scarier. They're doing just shy of 1,200 or so. But even then, pretty easy fight, all things considered. The two-headed dragon I am scared about, but my HP total is so high now that I'm not as worried as I used to be. So, the two-headed dragon is terrifying in solo runs, but when you have a full party, it's not as bad. And I have a shit ton of elixirs to my name, about 20 or so. So his attacks do anywhere from like 2.5k to 4k HP. I'm almost at 6k HP across the board, so 2 or 3 hits and I'm dead. But I just decided to do my old strat of when I was fighting against Goldor, which is just heal up when I get low with elixirs. I have enough. I don't think I'll need it against the Cloud of Darkness, because the Cloud of Darkness is comparatively pretty pathetic. It's weird. Her 4 little minions are way stronger than she'll ever be. Even though she has double the HP, still a very easy fight. Very pathetic final boss, honestly. Very disappointing final boss, I should say. But yeah, I keep up this strategy for a while, and the two-headed dragon of 65k HP is taken down, and I'm like, oh, I'm free. I think I'm good. I just gotta fight against the easy fight, and we're done. So I don't even hit 99. It's great. So we got some 95s and we got some 96s on my team. And just the difference between 95 and 96 is crazy. The extra level is doing way more damage and has slightly more HP. So, Cloud of Darkness has a whopping 120k HP. Similar thing, I'm doing anywhere between 2,500 damage and 5,000 with a crit. So about 10 turns of this or so, maybe 9 if you round it up a little bit. Particle Beam is the only attack the Cloud of Darkness can do. It is a party-wide AoE spell in which it does about 400 to 500 damage per hit, sometimes upwards of 7. But again, my defense is pretty high with all my stats and everything in this point. That, think about the math, alright? I've got to hit the final boss about 9 to 10 times. The final boss has got to hit me about 11 to 12 times. So just shy of barely being able to beat them. I could have, if I needed to, use the elixir strategy. Scallion does die. Chive and Leak are very low on HP, but I could still even survive one extra turn after that anyway. And we clear it. This was such a stressful run only because of how long this took me. Again, recording wise, this is probably as long as the Final Fantasy VI, if not longer. But again, a lot of the content was literally just grinding. I wish there was some way for the drop rates to be higher, but it is what it is. That was the biggest issue, was just sometimes I didn't even need to grind for levels, I just needed to grind for items so that I can use spells, because my physical attacks couldn't even do shit until I was high level 80s anyway. But yeah, that was really fun. Really felt really euphoric once I was able to overcome the level difference and be able to do all of this massive damage. But guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been such an interesting run. I appreciate you guys as always, and I will see you in the next run. But until then, as always, peace!